Hi, everyone. Welcome to Candid with the Candidates, brought to you by the North Baltimore County Democrats Club, a mini series where we interview local candidates for voters to really get a feel for their representation on a more personal level. My name is Isabella Lowry, and today we're interviewing Mr. Dave Harden, who is running to serve Maryland's first congressional district. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again for speaking with me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So, for my first question, you were previously on the board of directors for Kids for Peace. So, for those who don't know, it's a super cool interfaith organization created to make the world a better place for young people to live in. Their website statement says they give youth the skills and confidence to bridge divides and promote understanding in the face of rising hate and fear. Especially in times as politically and socially volatile as these, what is the importance of bridging divides and helping people understand each other? And how do you think you'll accomplish that in your campaign?
Well, this is a great question, and I love the fact that you're asking this to me. So, I have been involved in people-to-people activities on Israel-Palestine issues for more than a decade, probably 15 years.
Mhm.
And one of the things that really inspired me was the voice of youth. Right. So I ran a massive organization at the US Embassy in Tel Aviv, trying to work with both Israelis and Palestinians on peace negotiations and economic
Mhm.
development. But it really wasn't until we brought in the 14 to 18-year-olds that changed our perspective, that made us more passionate, more compelling, more inspiring, really driving us to excel. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that bear the risk, right? I mean, we can fight among all of ourselves forever. And if you're, 60 or 70 or whatever, that's fine. You got 20 years left. But if you are 14 or 18, your whole world is ahead of you. And
Right.
today's youth just don't want to be drowned out by conflict and chaos and despair. And so Kids for Peace really brought together kids from different perspectives, different persuasions that help them envision not only a better future, but provide the skills for them to deconflict challenges and advocate for their interests. And so I was proud to be a member of Kids for Peace.
Right. No, that's really cool. And I like that I think especially now it's really important to listen to our youth because of how crazy things are and how a lot more because of I think the internet and social media, young people are able to get involved more, at least
Yeah,
here. So
absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
listen, this is your world, right? At the end of the day, we're either going to pass something along that's better, more hopeful, more optimistic,
Mhm.
or not. And so, it's pretty important to me that we take that first path, that we help hand off a world that is just simply better for this next generation.
Definitely. Thank you. So on a little similar topic, still on Kids for Peace, they also mentioned seeking justice in schools and communities. So how do you plan to protect the rights of minority and marginalized groups, and how will you advocate for equality and justice once you're in office?
We are facing profound challenges in America now on social justice and inequality. And at the end of the day, we have to have a big tent that includes everybody. And set aside for the moment the cultural elements of it. Just
Mhm.
set that aside. We are a better people when we include everybody. We
Right.
will be more effective, we will be smarter, we will be able to transcend differences, and we will simply just get more talent into the mix. And wow, isn't that an amazing thing? Let me just add one element that's a little bit related to my background, which is national security and foreign policy.
Okay.
Right we face immense challenges from a national security and foreign policy perspective. But if we have truly embraced a diverse and inclusive uh, diplomatic corps, we're going to be way more effective with our challengers, with the rise of China, with the rise of Russia. We will be able to just to connect better with people from minority backgrounds in other countries. They will see us as kind of a shining light on the hill, and that is our ultimate strength.
Right. Thank you. Is my internet still okay? Ish.
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Um,
If at the end of this, like you're not happy with it, like when you start to record it and you want to redo it, then that's fine. We can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Um, okay, so that was a good segue into my next question. So when you were part of the USAID as mission director, right?
Yes,
Okay. So you served 17 years overseas, correct?
I did. Yeah.
That is really impressive, by the way. That is an insane accomplishment. So you worked on primarily economic development and humanitarian assistance, among a couple other things. What was the biggest takeaway from your experience overseas, and how can you apply it in office to better serve District 1 citizens?
Yeah. So it's a great question. I spent 25 years thinking about economies, how communities and countries and businesses and households can better their future. And I did it all over the world. I did it in Africa, in South Asia, in the Middle East, in Central Asia. I learned a lot, right? I learned how to create, let's say, a business enabling environment that would allow small businesses to start up faster and grow, or how businesses can trade with the world, how youth can get the skills to work in a modern, globally connected economy. This is what I did forever. And the first district has immense opportunity. I will say that with Andy Harris, we've lost a decade, right? We are simply poorer, sicker, less respected, and more divided than ever. And yet, the prospects of a first district with immense economic potential for everybody, is right in our grasp. There are immense challenges ahead of us with COVID and climate change and competition in this global economy. You know, we are going to face some fundamental changes. And right now, we can either do one of two things. We can run and hide because we're afraid and divided, or we can seize our future. I want to seize our future like I did everywhere in the world. I want to bring that skill home to my
Right.
people.
Thank you. Um, I was going to mention that too. I have a section where I was on your Twitter, and I did see that you have said that about Representative Harris. So, speaking on that, unity is something that was heavily stressed in President Biden's campaign, but it's also important to look at it on a more local scale, like you are. On the topic of division, where do you think Representative Harris went wrong? And how do you plan on uniting Marylanders across the state?
Yeah, you're asking fantastic questions.
Thank you.
So, so I was one of the very first tranche of national security professionals that endorsed Biden, and this was well before Iowa. And I went out to Iowa on behalf of Biden, and I watched his campaign closely. And we need to build that same kind of coalition. Now, it's no surprise that the first district is it's a tough district for Democrats.
Hmm.
It's the numbers favor the Republicans, and it favors an incumbent. And so, in order to win, I will have to build a coalition that includes Hogan Romney voters, independents, and Democrats,
Hmm.
both centrists and progressives. And without that, the Democrats simply cannot win. And so it's important that we focus on issues that we can all rally behind. And in my conversations with people throughout the district, everyone has said clearly to me, we need we need an economy that works for us all, and we need an economy that is prepared for the future.
Hmm.
Which will give us an enormous opportunity to build the jobs. We need to do that. We also
Right.
need to put broadband out every so that can link into schools and homes and businesses throughout. And lastly, we need to really upgrade and repair our infrastructure, our roads, our water systems, our electricity grids. And by doing that, we will create not only good construction jobs,
Hmm.
but good energy jobs that are designed for the future. So I'm excited about the opportunities of the first district.
Yeah. No, thank you. Um, okay. So, what inspired you to run? this year? Why is this year different than any other? And what do you bring to the table that differs from other candidates?
Well, I have served as a career officer for Republicans and Democrats. I served without regard for party. I served America for my
Mhm.
entire adult life. And by the way, my family has too, right? Serves. Uh, and when I left government, it was with sadness, by the way, because
Mhm.
I loved serving, but I could not represent Donald Trump abroad. It was just too problematic for me. It was just the way he operated made it impossible for a diplomat.
Right.
So I I quit. I opened up a small business. I became an entrepreneur, and it's been fantastic. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't have gone back into government service, but for but for Andy Harris's actions before, during, and after the January 6th insurrection. It was so appalling to me. He claims the mantle of patriotism. No, we're patriots. We're the patriots. My family and people throughout the district are patriots. We're not seditionists. We're patriots. We have served. And I was just so offended with those actions that I felt like it was imperative of me to try to unseat him. Now, what do I offer that's different? I actually offer this economic vision so that we can claim the economic future.
Mhm.
You know, it's interesting. We are the first district. It has high poverty rates in certain areas. It's
Mhm.
rural. It's kind of disconnected from many things that have been really successful. And yet we are neighbors with some of the highest end markets on the face of the earth.
Mhm.
It is possible to connect our farmers and our watermen and our brewers and our manufacturers in a way that would really create economic opportunity both in the region and beyond. And
Mhm.
so that's what I offer that's different than everybody else.
Thank you. So I got one more question and then we'll wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. So I feel like people think of climate change as such a big problem that it's hard to see individual effects that aren't polar bears in the Arctic. But you've said yourself that effects can even be seen in our own state with the flooding in Annapolis. How do you plan to combat climate change in Maryland, and what policies will you propose to achieve it?
I will say that you had a big pause in that your internet broke up a bit. So if you wanted to ask the question again, that's fine. And if not, I can just answer it.
No, that's fine. I'll say it one more time.
Okay.
So climate change, a lot of people think of it as too big of a problem to tackle. But there's effects seen in Maryland, like the flooding in Annapolis, and of course, globally. How do you plan to combat climate change in our state, and what will you propose to achieve it?
Right. So, just a couple of points. Climate change is happening. We can deny it or we can embrace it, but the reality is it's happening. And and if we don't lead on the innovation, others will.
Mhm.
China and Germany, they are creating the technology, and it's a market that is ripe. So it's our opportunity to seize that. When I was in USAID, we built something in the mid 80s called the Famine Early Warning System. It was a breakthrough set of technologies that allowed us to scan the future by 6 to 9 months to understand where famine might occur anywhere in the world and then be able to respond in advance of that. I have been working with MIT to develop the Climate Resilience Early Warning System and Network. It's a long range forecasting structure that allows us to see down to the 1 square kilometer area where there will be massive impact as a result of climate change. And by doing that, by knowing that this kilometer in 20 years will be uninhabitable, it will allow us to unleash public and private capital that will help families and communities mitigate or adapt to these changes in climate change. So the the technology elements of this are going to be the drivers of some of our solutions. And I've worked on technology in some of the most complicated challenges facing humanity for decades.
Mhm.
And applying those skills in this district can make all the difference in the world. And let me add one other point. So we're familiar with the Aberdeen Proving Ground, right? The military facility that allows us to test and understand the effectiveness of weapon systems.
Mhm.
We set up this order after World War II. We are at an inflection point right now with COVID, the pandemic, climate change, and kind of this rise of global competition that allows us to do something similar. So imagine for a moment, imagine a an innovation and climate technology lab, proving ground on the Eastern Shore that allows the people of this district, the citizens of Maryland, to test some of the most forward technology that could be adaptable to blunt the effects of climate change, not only in the Chesapeake and on the Eastern Shore, but across the world. This is the opportunity that I want us to seize.
Thank you. No, that is really exciting. I'm excited to see what you and your campaign will accomplish, and we are here to support you in any way that you need. That is what our organization is for. So that is all
Well,
the questions that I have for today.
Well, as Isabella, thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I'm just so impressed with you. I know that the future will be in good hands when I meet people like you. And my only job is to pass the baton to you and put the world in a better place than what it is now. So thank you, Isabella.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um,
Great.
so
Good
that is
job.
all.
Good. Good. You're wise beyond your years. That's all I can
Thank
say.
you.